Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ringer 57 YouTube channel. Sorry for the awkward angle, but it'll have to do. I've gone through a few revisions now, as you'll see over here, trying to cut in and melt in different shapes and overthinking this process for setting up this reluctor wheel. The big thing is I need to be able to fit this down to a solid surface with an indicator that is external to mark this TDC mark right here. I need to be able to indicate that on a wheel that is not attached to the center section so that it is still in line off center at the same point, because this keys into the crankshaft to set top dead center. So, easiest way I could think of after going through all this stupid crap I decided to try was, well, I'm going to have to secure it, right? Obviously, I've got to secure it down to know it's not going to move. And the easiest way to secure a reluctor is to secure it with the bolt that holds it to the crankshaft. Logically, that made sense to me. So we went ahead and grabbed a drill bit, bored the appropriate sized hole in this nylon cutting board, because nylon is amazing to work with. It's great for making quick tools and quick jigs because it's easily machined. It holds threads. It does other things. And we went ahead and tapped this down, this bore, to the same thread pitch and size as said bolt. Now, that allowed me to fit it down, hold it in place, and it held it down just fine. But it's still free spun. Obviously, it's held in place on the crankshaft by a keyway. Why don't I just duplicate that? So I started going through nuts and bolts and all sorts of stuff, looking for something that would meet the criteria I needed. Something that would fit snugly, but be easily... See, this barely doesn't fit. But with just a little bit of patience and a grinder, I touched and touched, tested, tested until it fit really snug, like snapped into place snug. And I went ahead and bored this straight through the board so that that shelved portion that fit just snug in here was facing up, lined it up in it, and turned it until the bolt hole lined up, and cut it off at the back. So now I just have this little rod sticking through. Real simple, real quick, clean way to do it. Well, dirty, quick, dirty, but it works extremely effectively. So now we've got this part. See how that, it doesn't want to go in, doesn't want to go in, doesn't want to, drops. Keying in, when it's keyed in, the threads are lined up. If you get it all the way in the key, there we go. The only disadvantage is it still has a slot it can travel in, but that's not a big deal. See, it wiggles, it moves. I was struggling with that, trying to find a way to avoid that wiggling, moving motion. And then the epiphany of, oh, why don't we just use the tool that's designed to hold it in place? Then I went ahead, ran a straight edge off of that timing mark. Straight out, measured about 1.5 mils, because it's already got about a 0.2, 0.02, 0.2, I don't remember. I just went a 0.5 mil extra of air gap there, and I've got a reluctor wheel that's 1 mil bigger than this, because I'm going to have to machine the reluctor down once it's keyed in. Straight lined it out 1.5 mils past the end of the reluctor, took a sewing needle, snipped it off, heated it up, and melted myself a pinhole. So now, if I put this straight edge against that pin and bring it back to the farthest side of this timing mark, it's in line with the timing mark all the way out. I've now got TDC marked on a board with a keyway that matches up to the reluctor, which secures the reluctor all the way down. There's no play in this, no way for it to free work around. So now we can go ahead, sorry about the movement here, and we can get this thickness here. We're going to go with the smallest radius here, and we're going to put it on a lathe and turn it down to that radius perfectly round. Then we're going to take 50% of this thickness, which is about 3.5 mils deep, and we're going to go in another 2 mils. So we'll have a ring, a shelf, and a ring radius. So from a side profile, looking at this reluctor, it would look something like this. All right. Now this is a shelf for my new 36-1 reluctor to sit on. We're going to make sure the hole on the reluctor is a few thou smaller than the bore outer diameter of this, so we can freeze this, heat that reluctor up to a couple hundred degrees, get this down to negative a couple hundred degrees, bring it over with my weld gloves, obviously, line up this pin with the 9th anti-clockwise tooth from the gap, from the -1 pin, and pop it down on. I'll have this sitting on probably a piece of wood or something outside stable, and I'll get a socket that is just big enough to sit outside of that lip that I'm showing you here, and I'll just pink, give it a tap. That'll drop it down on. We will have a TDC mark, anti-clockwise 9 pins from the skip tooth. That is what Mega Squirt likes. So we're going to go ahead and Mega Squirt, Micro Squirt, DIY auto-tune programmers like standalones. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to see if I can't find someone with a lathe over the next weekend, preferably, to turn this down for me. We got to see, I did not receive tracking for the reluctor wheel. It is coming from Great Britain. So I have no big hopes and dreams of getting it anytime soon, but it was air freight, so who knows. The Micro Squirt will be here Friday. The fuse block will be here tomorrow. Then I'm just waiting on the reluctor with those 3 items. Oh, and I got to get a GM coolant temp sensor. And we're going to use that as an oil temp sensor because ignition timing is controlled by, not coolant temperature, intake air temperature. Ignition is controlled by intake air temperature partially. Part of the programming is that as your intake air temperature rises to a certain point, it starts pulling timing. When it hits a certain set point, it pulls a lot of timing out. This is to prevent detonation, because the hotter your intake air charge is, the greater the chance of detonation. Alright, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed my ramble again. Hopefully I can get this board going this week, and you'll see a video of that coming out shortly.